Good morning, time travelers of the galaxy. What was the big deal about Lindbergh, you ask? Guy got in a plane and traveled to Paris. Big deal. If you are truly a sojourner to epochs lost in time, then you will readily know the answer to that question. For you non-time travelers, you must remove all your technological remnants of your present-day world. The technology, i.e. the airplane, to accomplish such a journey over the Atlantic Ocean had not yet been invented. But there was a fuel problem. Gasoline for you clean fuelers. That gasoline had to be aboard the aircraft, which weighted down the airplane. Several people had died trying to claim the same $25,000 prize that Charles Lindbergh eventually won. More important, it was a solo flight. The person flying the plane had to stay awake over the open ocean 33 hours to the continent. Lindbergh and his team had designed a lighter aircraft, but still had to overload the fuel tanks. 450 gallons of fuel. One man takes off, defying the odds at incredible risk, and becomes the first person to solo an air flight to another continent. And it's what happened after this historic flight, the expansion of air travel, freight and military applications, everything changed. Charlie Russo is an ambitious 20-something-year-old from Ohio. He's working in New York and his career is on the rise. He's even engaged to the boss's daughter, except he's gone gaga for a woman he met under the concession stands at Yankee Stadium. There's certainly more to this woman than her freckles and her shingle-cut hair. Charlie let her slip through the turnstile. But wait, guess who is at Roosevelt Field on Long Island, waiting to see if Lindbergh dare take off on this drizzly morning? Chapter 3. In the early morning hours, Charlie drove his 62 along a narrow, muddy road toward Roosevelt Field on Long Island. The sun hid back the mist, and he questioned whether they would even fly this morning. He checked his watch. The old man had no problem with his taking the day off, but Francine had put a constraint on his free time, insisting that he meet her and the old man at the tower for lunch. The bumpy, monotonous ride resulted in spraying his shiny car with a muddy residue. A cigarette hung from his mouth as he slowed the 62 and approached a line of cars, uniformed police, and groups of people scattered over the field. The stuffy car exhaust mixed with the fresh, moistened grass and dirt. He leaned out the window toward the motorcycle cop. "Hey, bud, where do I park?" The cop pointed across the grass. "Looks kind of crummy to be flying. 25 grand to whoever makes it. I'll fly out for 25 grand. Lindbergh out there yet? I like him." "They've already started rolling out his plane." He panned the field from his driver's window. "Too muddy. At least it ain't raining." Charlie nodded and maneuvered the car across the grass. He gazed to his left and wondered why Lindbergh or any one of these guys would want to fly out on such a lousy day. It might be clearer out over the ocean, but incredibly risky over such a long distance. He parked the car on the grass and traipsed across the spongy field. In the commotion ahead as he circled, Jamel walked through the crowd. His stomach tingled as he mired in the mud. Dressed in a pale gray flight suit, she carried the same brown leather case strapped to her shoulder and had a set of field glasses around her neck. Charlie stumbled across the grass, slipping several times as he called out her name. Startled, she spun around with a fearful look over her freckled face, but she smiled when she saw him sliding on the grass. He breathed rapidly as he reached her. Jamel, I knew I'd see you again." "You did?" "I kept kicking myself for not getting your number or your address." "Kicking yourself? Oh, I see. You're upset with yourself." Her sleek body, even more defined in the flight suit, possessed the same graceful movement, and the jasmine intoxicated his senses. She would not get away this time. "Are you involved in this thing? Prize across the Atlantic? I mean, you're wearing a flight suit." "Oh, no. I'm here, Charlie, merely as an observer of history." "History? You really think this guy's going to do it?" She touched his arm as she spoke. "Not just some guy. Charles Augustus Lindbergh. This is May 20th, 1927. We're standing at Roosevelt Field, right on the edge of history, Charlie. No one has ever crossed this ocean by air. 6 people have died trying. The amazing thing about this flight was that he loaded so much fuel into the plane. By all rights, he shouldn't have been able to take off. She leaned closer and whispered, however, they constructed the struts and braces with aluminum or balsa. Very streamlined craft. Charlie perched on his toes, trying to view the action. Sounds like you have it all figured out, like it already happened. Maybe it has. She handed the glasses to him. The image of a small silver plane, blocks still wedged under the tires, came into view. He had trouble seeing the writing on the side. Take me to St. Louis? No, the spirit of St. Louis. She chuckled as Charlie lowered the glasses. I'm glad I found you again. I'm sorry I left the stadium so fast. I have my reasons. I'm sorry. You seemed a little nervous when I called out your name before. You running from something? She did not answer, and he peeked into the binoculars again. What are all those red containers? Gas cans. As I said, it was a very tricky maneuver to take off with all that weight, but he needed the fuel. I love things like this, the excitement, the daring, replied Charlie. He could almost feel the tension building, almost as good as being at the ballpark. Well, it depends whether the Yanks are winning. Then she held his arm, her body tensing as she looked across the field. God, what a moment in time. If he makes it. Through the lenses, a lean young man with a huge crop of auburn hair traipsed around in army pants and a sweater. She nudged against Charlie and pointed. That's him! Charlie, you have no idea what it's like to view this. No idea. The key is the telephone wires. He has to clear the telephone wires. Most people of this era still have no grand vision as to what this flight means to the world. Everything will change now. They only see their heroes right now. This era? The 20s, of course. How can he clear those wires with all that fuel and the wind coming in? Asked Charlie. No, he'll have the tailwind, 5 miles an hour when he takes off. He snapped his fingers. Now I know. You're from the National Weather Service. That's why you carry the case. Nice try. I'll figure it out. Oh, you will you? He studied Lindbergh and tried to imagine himself in the same position. If he really doesn't make it, people will go crazy. A hint of sadness swept your azure eyes. This flight will make him famous at such a cost, fame. They wouldn't let up on him. This society will end up destroying its heroes. Heroes are so necessary, Charlie. How do you know all this? I apologize. It isn't my mission to be talking about things past. It might make some radical time change. Radical time change? You never know how a changed event will play out. Most things you change on the timeline come to a dead end, but you do risk affecting more than you bargained for. Okay, I'll buy that. She sounded as if she just got out of the loony bin. He raised the binoculars again. After checking the runway, Lindbergh went over to the windsock, and seconds later he stripped into his flying suit. Charlie sensed the exhilarating anxiety as Lindbergh climbed up and into the plane. How would he pilot the small craft down the rain-soaked runway and clear the wires and woods at the far end? A gaggle of men moved toward the propeller and pulled it down. The motor sputtered but finally caught. A buzz reverberated across the misty morning, but the engine sounded weak. He's just letting it idle. You'll hear him tune it up in a second, said Jamel, looking ahead. I know. You're a reporter. Nope. I give up. She clutched his shoulder. Mulligan and Bodecker. Sounds like a slick law firm. They're pushing the wings, Charlie. 7:52 a.m., May 20th, 1927. God, what a brave man. The small silver plane, with the single occupant inside and tires skipping in the mud, moved awkwardly down the field. The nose pointed ahead and the wings dipped a few times as the plane hit uneven ground. Oh, horse feathers. He's not going to make it up, said Charlie. He'll make it. Charlie covered his eyes but peeked through his fingers. All that gasoline? He's moving along, but he's not even in the air, Jamel. It's okay, Charlie. Tomorrow night he'll be in Paris. Lindbergh and his tiny craft raced toward the ravine at the end of the runway. The spirit of St. Louis would tumble into the ravine at high speed if he did not get that plane up in a few seconds. Come on, come on! The plane catapulted into the air, and Charlie jumped up and down as if he were at the ballpark. See, said Jamel, he did it! He did it! The plane bounced off the ground just before the ravine and then back into the air. He didn't do it. Charlie grabbed her as Lindbergh hit the field again. She spoke softly. Just a little more. Just a little more. He hugged her again as the Spirit of St. Louis lifted into the air above a group of onlookers and a tractor beyond. Once he cleared the ravine, Lindbergh soared skyward. Charlie thrust his arms into the air. Yes! The tiny plane, engine pushed to the limit, wafted upward from the crowd and missed the telephone wires by only 15 or 20 feet. Jamel had her arms clasped around Charlie. What a man! Why, thank you. She grinned and rustled her hand over his shoulders. He lingered only inches from her bronzed, freckled face and soft, wavy hair. The urge to kiss her became too much. He puckered up, but she turned toward the far end of the field. Lindbergh traced the undulating terrain beyond the field and simply disappeared into the May mist. Getting off the ground proved miraculous, but crossing the Atlantic Ocean seemed laughable. Lindbergh pays the price of his celebrity and his opinions during his long lifetime. My intention is to focus my pen light on the 1927 moments. The celebration after his successful flight is extraordinary. It's the era of heroes and the rising big media promoting these heroes, which, if kept in perspective, isn't such a bad thing. Next time we'll hear what it was like to be at the New York City ticker tape parade and what this could mean for Charlie and Jamel. I'm Robert P. Fitton, and I've been zooming into the past. Fitton time travel books abide by historical events as they happened. Music, television, and daily events are concurrent with the time travel plot.